Dream is currently the most popular gaming channel on the internet. He has over 14 million subscribers and makes some of the best content on YouTube. His entertaining content and high-level Minecraft plays have allowed him to rapidly grow a massive fan base over this past year. However, these fans are some of the most obsessed and toxic people on the internet. Most people on the internet would consider these people as stans who hyperfixate themselves around their favorite creator and idolize them to unhealthy levels. It was only a matter of time before another person with a large following would bring this issue to light, and when they did, it only took a few more minutes for Dream to prove him right.
This being a stan is, I'm gonna be completely honest, it's very weird to me. It's something I'll never understand.
Dream's whole thing with the definition of stan is he's just feeding into what the stans want to hear.
Because at the end of the day, like, it really isn't that deep. And I feel like, obviously, these stans don't understand that, but as a creator, I felt obligated to the point that I didn't even want to be associated with that shit, right? Like, why would I want to get on Discord every day and have my day negatively impacted by people who take shit that I say too seriously? That's fucking ridiculous, and I'm not doing it.
One thing that comes up all the time in talks about stan culture that isn't actually all that important is the definition of the word stan. Most people who defend stan culture say that the definition has changed since the term came about. The word stan was first coined by Eminem in his song Stan, about an obsessed fan named Stan who wrote several letters to his idol. When Eminem didn't respond, he decided to drive his car off a bridge with his pregnant girlfriend tied up in the trunk. Obviously, the song is fiction, but this concept of overly obsessed fans does exist in our world. Over time, the word stan has been used far more liberally, and some people, like Dream and other defenders of the stan culture, would claim that the word has become a synonym for the word fanatic. However, while some people have accepted this change, some people have not, and this debate about stan culture instead changes into a semantic debate about the meaning of the word stan. People against stan culture would say that the meaning of the word has not changed, and that anyone who says it has is only feeding into the toxic culture. Whereas defenders of the culture would say that the word's meaning has changed and that calling all stans toxic is not fair, since it isn't good to punish everyone for the crimes of the minority. While this sounds like a large issue, it really isn't when you think about it. While the word may or may not have had a definition change over the years, the actual people that the word refers to have not. The toxic fans of 2000 are just as, if not more toxic than the fans in 2020 due to the inception of Twitter. Just because the word changed does not mean that the people have as well. So when people say that stan culture is bad, they obviously aren't referring to the plethora of normal and rational fans that enjoy someone's content. They're referring to the small but loud group of toxic and overly obsessed fans that fixate their entire online presence towards their favorite creators and can't take any dissenting opinion against their idols. By saying that the definition change is important, you are inadvertently contributing to the stan culture in a negative way. It works in the exact same way that euphemisms work. When Dream says that not all stans are bad, he obviously means well and wants to protect the normal stans. While he does supposedly protect them despite them not actually being attacked, he actually validates the deranged and toxic stans as well. He, whether intentionally or not, is able to appeal to his radical fans without alienating his base, just as a euphemism. And when someone says stan culture is evil, his normal fans then rally together and call that person an idiot because in their minds, stans are just like them, normal fans.
They're blending fan and stans together. Yeah, they have their own warped. Everything was warped. So it's a bubble, right? And you go in this bubble and everything, their perception of things is warped. So everyone on the outside of the community perceives stans as being a concrete, like, overzealous group of fans and like obsessive. But in their own circles, it's just another word for fans. And so they're like, no, the definition has changed. No, in your small community of people, it may have changed, but it still exists in its original form in the wider world. In the real world, it still means the same thing.
So after writing this last bit, Dream uploaded a video talking about stan culture and why he thinks it's a good thing and shouldn't be feared. So I just wanted to make a quick point-by-point analysis of it quickly.
I encourage anybody who thinks that to just listen to me, hear me out. Let's have a conversation. I mean, of course, there's a small subset of actual stalker fans that do things that I wouldn't like or that are creepy, but that's not stans as a whole.
What Dream fails to realize is that once again, when we say stans are toxic, we aren't referring to the passionate fans that he mentions. We are referring to the people who hyperfixate themselves around their favorite creators and blindly follow them without any free thought. Yes, being a massive football fan can be perfectly healthy and normal. What isn't good are the stans that harass other creators over minor issues, which you later point out that there are stans that do this. These stans that harass creators are the problem we are talking about, not the normal fan whose quote-unquote worst offense is drawing fan art. Once again, your definition of a stan has no bearing on the fact that there are people in your fan base that are toxic.
And I know if you're not into sports, you may not understand that, but I'm sure there's something that you feel the same way about. It may not be a real person, it may have been when you were a kid with SpongeBob or Batman or some other fictional character that you look up to, but the point is that you looked up to them and that you really enjoyed that thing.
That doesn't make you a stan, that just makes you a passionate fan. Stans are a step above passionate fans. They are the obsessed and overzealous fans that are toxic. These are the people who we are talking about when we say the word stan. This goes back to how the definition got warped in these groups, because the word stan became a vernacular term to mean fan in these groups.
But obviously, there's some fans that take it way too far. That's definitely true, but it's a very, very small amount, and you usually have to go looking for them if you want to find them.
While these people may not be the majority, they are the loudest and arguably the most important. If Addison Rae gets harassed by your toxic stans for simply getting merch, what is she gonna say? Oh, I'm getting harassed right now, but it's okay because not all stans are toxic? Who cares? They aren't the group we are talking about right now. The amount of toxic stans doesn't discount the potential damage they do. And even if they aren't outright harassing creators, these people are toxic in other ways. For example, if I were to ask a Dream stan, Dream's definition of stan, not necessarily ours, let's say that we tell this Dream stan, I don't think Dream is the best at Minecraft, how many people would actually have a genuine discussion about it, as you said, about football, and how many would simply just say, you're an idiot? Then he goes on to talk about how haters are actually a bigger problem to him than stans, which, you know, makes sense. Of course, they're not going to cause any trouble for you because that's exactly what you want. You want a massive fan base that will listen to you and just blindly follow you. And of course, naturally, you won't like people that hate you. I don't get what his point was here.
Of course, again, there's obviously specific examples of toxic fans. They do exist, but we shouldn't brand all stans as creepy or bad just because 0.00001% of actual toxic fans.
We literally aren't. The only reason you're saying this is because you misinterpret the argument and think that when we say stan, we're also referring to the normal and passionate fans, which just isn't true. We only brand the creepy and toxic stans as creepy and toxic, and they just so happen to identify as Dream stans. It's kind of like a square's a rectangle, but a rectangle's not a square, basically. Dream's coming from the perspective of a rectangle's not a square, we're coming from the perspective of a square is a rectangle. He then lists good things that his stans have done for him in the community, but once again, these are not the people we're talking about. We are talking about the people who got #KickSchlatt trending. We are talking about the people who draw R34 art of Tommy Innit and Tubbo. These are the people who we're talking about, not the normal and sensible fans. Those people are fine. Overall, Dream isn't exactly wrong in his argument, he just mislabels his fans as stans, but as we covered before, labeling these people as stans contributes into the toxic culture that he claims isn't a problem, and works in the same way as a euphemism. Also, he never actually addressed any of Josh's arguments in his video, so let's go over them here. Josh is a Twitch streamer with a pretty moderately sized following and is most known for being regularly featured in Call Me Carson's videos on YouTube. Last week, he posted a Twitter thread saying that stan culture is evil and that his viewers should unfollow and unsubscribe from him if they take part in said culture. His first tweet was pretty tame, as all he said was that he wanted nothing to do with stan culture. It was his second tweet that caused the situation to blow up and start the conversation about stan culture. He said, "Every experience I have ever had with the community is negative. I am sick of looking at Instagram and seeing that I am tagged in yet another edit made with some garbage phone app. I am tired of random people obsessing over me and more so obsessing over people such as Dream." Simply mentioning Dream's name caused an entire storm of Dream stans to come over and attack Josh, despite the fact that Josh never even attacked Dream. He only used him as an example for stan culture and how his fan base worships him as a god.
I don't know why, But there was the idea that I was like attacking Dream or something. That's so weird.
Dream would respond to this thread by saying, "You're an idiot." To which Josh would reply, "Good argument. I'm glad that instead of actually making any attempt to prove me wrong, that you instead chose to reply with insults. It proves that you are as immature as your child viewers and your bandwagoning friends." Josh gave his argument, and it took 2 seconds for Dream and his stands to prove him right. This has to be a world record, and unlike Dream, Josh didn't need to cheat to pull it off. Josh claimed that a stan community will blindly follow and worship their idols in a hive-mindish way, and that the people within the community are immature and easily influenced. Then all of Dream's stans come over to attack Josh in an immature way. You cannot make this up. When he first put out his thread on stan culture, it came across as very direct and aggressive, and this resulted in a large amount of people misinterpreting his arguments. This is obviously to be expected, as Josh had compared stan culture to a cultish-like mentality where there is no free thought and everyone is mentally ill. He decided to go live on Twitch to clarify some of his positions on stan culture and his thoughts on Dream.
People are like, oh, Josh said teenagers who are interested in stuff are beasts that need to be slain because they don't read. They read what watered down version they got through like their friend hearing it from their friend, hearing it from their friend, hearing it from their friend. When I said the beast, I mean that's the culture. And that culture, it's not helping anybody. It's bad for everybody. Nobody benefits from stan culture except for those people who earn financially off of it.
Josh's thread sparked a huge discussion among several creators on the internet, and even got Sky Does Minecraft to give his thoughts on the situation. Overall, I think Ted and Carson had the best discussion about Josh's thread, because it's coming from not only people who know Josh and are friends with him, but Ted and Carson are on opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to this. Ted has stated that he's okay with stans and that either you fight against them or you learn to accept them, whereas Carson has made his stance on stans very clear over the past year, since he has had several negative experiences with them.
He was a little extreme in his wording, I will say.
No, he was.
He was a little aggressive. I will say, you know, Josh fully within his right to be annoyed by it, but I mean, it also is like, I think you either fight against it or you just learn to accept it for what it is.
Yep. I don't think it. Here's the thing: it's just setting boundaries. You know, at the end of the day, he's just saying, "I don't want you watching me if you're gonna be like this," and I think that's completely understandable. If he feels that way.
I don't think that he doesn't need to like apologize for having that opinion.
No,
or
of course
anything.
not.
Like,
here's the thing: it's.
I get why stands exist, and I'm perfectly fine with people at this point. I'm perfectly fine with people standing me. That's not something I don't really mind it anymore. But I also understand why it would make people very, very, very uncomfortable. So it's sort of
personally, I just want my audience to be a little bit more chill than that. So for me, I completely understand. But I'm not against other people having it, but I think it's very harmful in some cases.
Well, there's a difference between fans and stands. Yeah, you're right. There is a difference between fans and stands.
Right. I think that's cool, but at the same time, I think it is weird on a certain level to almost make a hobby out of another human being.
Stan culture is inherently bad and isn't something that should be fed into. It's one thing to look up to someone, but it's an entirely different thing to create an entire culture out of another human being. Yes, these overly toxic people are the minority, but all that means is that there are fewer stans than you think. If you consider yourself a stan, chances are you're just a regular fan who enjoys someone's content, and you're using the word stan in a vernacular sense. Even if these toxic people are the minority, they are the loudest group and have more influence than most people think. And by ignoring this issue, Dream has effectively fed into this toxic culture and validated these toxic fans by giving them a cover to hide behind. This is a problem and it needs to be stopped. These people are toxic and immature. They do not think for themselves and will support their favorite people no matter what happens. And if you call them out on it, they will just call you an idiot in response.